Coming up on Four Verts, we got a couple of NFL news and storylines that I want to get into here on today's show. Hope everybody is gearing up for a fantastic weekend. But I do want to remind you guys that we do have a Four Verts Instagram page. Haven't promoted it a ton on this show, but I'd like to grow that account. And if you could help us out, that would be awesome. You can find more short-form content over there like Instagram Reels. We'll work in some posts and some IG stories as well. And then as that page grows, who knows what we do with it. But we're at 455 followers. I would love it if we could get to 500. It's at 4Verts IG. That is the handle. I will pin the link to that page in the comment section of this video. So if you could give us a follow over there, I would greatly appreciate it. Could Kyler Murray be a trade candidate next offseason? That is where we kick off Four Verts today. My name is Harrison Graham, and John Middlekauff, a podcaster who I really like. He works for the Volume, Cowherd's podcasting network. He also filled in with Colin on the herd this week, and they went through some of their bold predictions in the AFC and NFC. And one was from Middlekauff that this would be his last season in Arizona, that they would move on from Kyler a year from now. And here's what he had to say on the herd. Quote, Kyler Murray is one of the best athletes we've ever seen, but is he a good quarterback? I think this will be his last season on the Cardinals. This GM and head coach did not draft him. He's never won a playoff game. I don't think they'll make the playoffs this year. How many years can you go with a high-priced quarterback and not win? Usually those guys get moved. He still has value in terms of if they were to trade him. And I've kind of had this thought for a long time. I think, sometimes things run their course in sports and life and business, whatever. And Kyler Murray is a fascinating player. Middlekauff said it later on as well. From a highlight reel player and a wow factor, he's as good as it gets in the NFL. But just from a snap 1 to snap 80 in a game 1 to game 17 in a season, it's kind of all over the map. And if you just pull up the raw stats, you're like, yeah, this guy's awesome. He's incredible. But I think due to his lack of size, which limits him on what he can do in the pocket, which forces him to create probably more than he would like to, how is that going to age, number one? And number two, I think at times it's probably held Arizona back in some way. Now, you could do a lot worse than Kyler Murray. If you move Kyler Murray, there is no guarantee you're going to be able to replace him with an upgrade. But at some point, you kind of look at the data and you look at everything he's done. They just haven't won enough. And I'm not saying that's all him. Like when he first got there, they weren't very good. Cliff Kingsbury wasn't that great of a head coach. They made the playoffs the 1 year, but he's 36-45-1 in the regular season. He got smoked in the one time he made the playoffs. Like, it's year 7 here. This is his 7th year. I mean, how many guys do you keep around for 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years if you're basically never making the playoffs, and the one time you do, you lose? I mean, even like you think of a guy like Andy Dalton in Cincinnati. They didn't win a playoff game with him. I think they made the playoffs 5 straight years, at least 4. So, like, they were making it a lot. Daniel Jones getting 6 years in New York is kind of an outlier, and even he won a playoff game. So, I think this is a big year for Arizona. I've talked about this, and, I do think there's a world where Jonathan Gannon and Monty Ossenfort would get longer leash in Arizona, with this being their 3rd year as that head coach GM regime, than Kyler would, considering this would be his 7th year. So if they do not make the playoffs, and if Kyler's up and down again this year, which again, that's kind of what he is. The highs are very high, the lows are very low. I could see them trading, because to get back to a point I made earlier, how is he going to age? I think he's 28 years old this year, so next year he'd be going into his 29-year-old age season. Well, at 5'9" and relying heavily on his athleticism, I think the value before he turns 30 is a lot higher. Like, you try to trade him at 31, 32, is he playing at a high level into his mid-late 30s? I mean, maybe he is. Maybe he's able to adapt and adjust and become more of a pocket guy. But at 5'9", there's always going to be limitations. It's just the reality of playing quarterback behind 6'6" offensive linemen and 6'5" defensive linemen. So I think it's a huge year for him. If they miss the playoffs, I think he is a name to watch early next offseason as a quarterback that could get traded to a QB-thirsty team in Arizona. Do they get a first back? Maybe it's a couple of day 2 picks. Who knows? But keep an eye on Kyler in 2025. What do you guys think? Is Kyler a top 15 QB? I think he's right in that mix. I think in my QB rankings for this year, I think I had him 14. Again, very good player, very inconsistent player. His highs, he's a top 6, top 7 guy. His lows, he's in the 20s. So you add it all up, he's somewhere in the mid-teens. Type Y for yes, he's top 15. Type N for no. I had him at 14, I believe, so I have him just inside there. But at some point, you got to win, and they just have not won nearly enough. Okay, news coming in yesterday. Adam Schefter had it that the Buccaneers have extended both Todd Bowles and general manager Jason Licht. Quick thoughts on Jason Licht before we get to Bowles. That's a no-brainer. I think he's established himself as, I don't know, is he a top 5 GM? He's for sure top 10. I mean, you think about the talent he's accumulated in Tampa Bay and how much of it's homegrown, how much they have drafted and developed players in Tampa and kept those guys around for years and years and years now. So he also brought in Baker Mayfield. That has worked out pretty well. So he's done a fantastic job. He's got a great reputation for bringing in talent. Todd Bowles is tougher to evaluate. What do we know about Todd Bowles? We know that he's a good defensive coach. We know that he's solid. We know that he's well-respected. Players clearly like him. I don't think you make this move to extend him if they don't really like him in that building. Clearly, Jason Licht likes him as well. I mean, Licht has more power in that organization than Bowles. I'm sure he was given kind of some voice in that decision to extend his head coach as well. This is not an anti-Todd Bowles segment that I am getting into here, but I do think there is some discussion to be had of how far you can go with Todd Bowles. You know, 3 years taking over for Bruce Arians. The last year with Tom Brady where he wasn't as good. They lost in the wild card round. It was, you know, when you retire and then unretire, like you kind of felt like that year was going to be weird, and it was. But then the next year, that was a huge success to make the playoffs with Baker Mayfield and win a playoff game and challenge the Lions in the divisional round. That was a really good year. Last year, still a good year. And if they don't have a missed exchange between their rookie center and Baker late in that playoff game against Washington, they probably win that game, and who knows? Maybe they go on to beat Detroit, who had a decimated defense, and make the NFC Championship. But I think what happens, and this is the risk of having either A, a CEO head coach, or B, a defensive head coach, is if your offense is good, you're going to be cycling through offensive coordinators because teams in today's NFL, they want the next great offensive mind. They want the next Sean McVay. They want the next Kyle Shanahan. You see Dave Canales get poached. Last year, Liam Cohen gets poached by Jacksonville. They promoted within this year, so now it's their third straight year with a new OC for Baker Mayfield, and clearly he's handled it well the last couple of years, but that's constant change, and I think it's hard to build long-term high-level continuity when you're constantly having to change your offensive coordinator with your quarterback. I think it's a little easier with the defensive coordinator, especially like if you do have a defensive coach, like Todd Bowles is running that show, so you're fine there, but I also get the other side of, well, there's something to be said for they're in the mix every year now. It's a double-edged sword because clearly Bowles is good. He knows what he's doing. He's a solid leader. Players respect him. All the cliches you want to look at, but can you get to the finish line? Can Tampa win a Super Bowl? Because I look at their roster and I'm like, why can't this team make a run to an NFC Championship game, a run to a Super Bowl? Baker, for 2 years now, has played like a top 10 guy. They've got, I don't know, the best receiver room in the NFL, at least in terms of depth. Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, McMillan, and now you add Ibuka to the mix. They have a good tight end. They have a top 5 offensive line. They have 3 good running backs. Their defense, if they're healthy this year, is at least above average. That's a loaded team. That is a loaded team. So I'm not trying to act like Bowles is underachieved. I don't know if you can, like, overachieve, though, with Bowles, right? I think we saw with the Jets, like, they had a couple good years, then it kind of just fizzled out toward the end. Now, I think this is a key note here. Tampa went through 4 coaches, really 5, because I think it was the last year of Gruden in 2008, and then 4 more coaches through 2019 where they didn't make the playoffs once. So Tampa, I mean, you think about it, if you're my age, I'm 31. If you're in your 20s or early 30s, for most of our life, they were, a bottom 5 team in the NFL? I mean, they brought in Lovie Smith, who had a good run in Chicago, and they, couldn't win games. I mean, I think they won 5 or less games every year he was there, so that was a disaster. So I understand, and I even, think in general it's probably at least a smart-ish move to keep this continuity with Licht and Bowles going? Because clearly Licht, you're going to keep long term. And if he likes Bowles, like, okay, like I trust his judgment on that. There's value in being consistent and being in the mix. And does anyone think they're not the team to beat in the NFC South again this year? And again, if you're constantly in the playoffs, putting yourself in the mix, you can break through. It can certainly happen. But I do wonder if, I don't know, if 2 more similar years go by where they win 9, 10, 11 games and they're good, but they're losing in like the wild card or divisional round, do you ultimately take a swing for an offensive coach in a few years? Like, I do think that could be on the table. I can appreciate why they did this, though. Bowles is good, but can you be great with him? I think that's a fair question to ask at this point in time. So they lock him up. They lock Jason Licht up. We'll see how the next couple of years go. I don't think this is necessarily a nod to, Bowles is our guy for the next decade. I think it's more of, he's done a good job. Our GM likes him. Our players like him. Let's reward him for that. And, let's see how the next couple of years go. Can the Buccaneers win a Super Bowl with Todd Bowles? What say you? Type Y for yes or type 2 for no? I think they're talented enough where it could happen. But it's tough. It's tough. A lot of the elite teams, especially in the NFC, they're offensive-minded head coaches. So it seems to be tougher when you have to go this route and constantly changing OCs. All right, that's going to do it for this episode of Verts. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Give our Instagram page a follow. I would greatly appreciate it. Hopefully you guys have a fantastic weekend. We'll have at least one episode go out either Saturday or Sunday, TBD on what that episode is, but be on the lookout for that. So we'll see you then. Peace.